Hello, my fellow Cybertronians. This is the Mega Ginger and Ginger Transformer podcast. Final part of the For Cybertron trilogy today. For Cybertron Kingdom. Right, let's bring on the beasts. Where we left off from the last time was both the Nemesis and the Ark had crash landed on prehistoric Earth, and at least one of the Beast Wars characters has shown itself, Dinobot. It also showed that everyone who's left in Cybertron basically died in a big explosion. So there is not any back and forth, really. Most of this takes place on prehistoric Earth, kind of in the dead universe of it, and then Cybertron for like the last episode, really. Yeah, without further ado, let's get to it. Basically, the Autobots are stuck inside a volcano. Very G1. Okay, and the Nemesis has not... Well, we don't actually see where the Nemesis crashes, per se, like the original. We see the second Nemesis is at the bottom of the ocean in Generation 1. The other one gets buried inside basically inside a mountain that's grown over millions of years. It's very possible that's exactly where the Nemesis crashed in G1. It's just that, no one's in stasis lock, and that Nemesis actually has Decepticons on board. They haven't all been on the Ark. So Wheeljack can't get any systems to work on the Ark. Things seem to be going a bit kind of ski-whiff. He's confused. Doesn't know why, really. And eventually, they find the rat chewing through wires. And just as the Autobots are going, what the hell is this? All of a sudden, the Ark turns into a zoo. You got a cheetah and a rhino and a frigging monkey, and we've seen where we're going with this, don't we? Right? And all of a sudden, they're fighting the Autobots, and the Autobots are like fighting back. And there's a bit of a kerfuffle, before the fighting stops, when the monkey transforms into a Cybertronian and starts yelling stuff at Optimus about, "Yo, Nemesis, I hate you, you're a bastard, I." And he's sitting going, "I'm Optimus. I don't know a Nemesis. What's going on here?" Optimus was still wounded from his battle with Megatron the previous season, I may add. And, Primal, he's not introduced himself as Primal yet, but we know it's Primal. It's like, real, if you're Optimus, you show me the matrix of leadership. Cue Optimus to collapse. And for Ratchet to go, "The fighting's over, get out of my way, I got a patient." No one's asking where Cog is. Poor bastard. But anywho, we see them all transform. We have Tigatron, Cheetor, Rhinox, Rat Trap, they're the only ones there just now. Wind Raider's flying about somewhere, spying on Decepticons and stuff, and Predacons. And the Maximals aren't very welcoming to the Autobots, if we're completely honest. But I digress. Over to the Decepticons, who've also survived the crash and have also noticed approaching things. So they take a little scouting party out, and sure enough, a T-Rex comes beasting through the foliage along with a raptor. Yeah, raptors. I don't know dinosaurs, really, unless you've heard the Dinobot in G1 or on Jurassic Park. But yeah, they both come out, and oh Jesus, this is embarrassing. Like Beast Wars Megatron, he's such a whiny little kiss ass. Mighty in his own right, but when Megatron, the original Megatron's here, he's basically like bowing before him, and he's like, "Oh, whatever you say, we'll do whatever you say. Oh, everyone's brilliant, blah, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, I have this for you. Golden disc." That was easy. Thought there was going to be some sort of giant trick to get that motherfucker, but no. Just handed him straight off the bat. Turns out we have, full lists here, just for future reference. Maximal side, we have Optimus Primal, Cheetor, Tigatron, Rat Trap, Rhinox, and Air Razor. Predacons. We've got Beast Wars Megatron. We've got Black Arachnia. We've got Dinobot, who is a Predacon here, but like in Beast Wars, he's very conflicted and confused as to which side he's supposed to be on. I have Scorponok, not the one from the last series, Predacon Scorponok, who seems to be very, very loyal to just doing whatever the hell Megatron tells him. Beast Wars Megatron. I think that's it. Because there's no Terror Sword, there's no Quick Strike, no Rampage, none of that. No, so I think that's it. Predacon-wise, that kind of sucks. So they all meet up. Ares are spying on, unfortunately. Soundwave dispatches Laserbeak, and she is quickly captured and tortured by Dinobot. He feels bad about it, but he does it anyway. But don't get me wrong, he only does it once, and then she notices, "Yeah, you've not really done it again." As if she's wanting him to do it again. The Autobots and the Maximals at this point have introduced themselves to each other. The Maximals are trying not to tell them too much because of, wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. Yeah, they come to soon realise, A, the Ark's not going to get them anywhere, can't fix the Axelon. Yeah, a reference to the Exelon. And B, it turns out the Autobots haven't been as gone as long as the Maximals think they have been. Everything that's been happening to them has happened in the past few weeks. And they're from a future where apparently they never returned to Cybertron. Everyone's your fault, you're all bastards. That kind of thing. And it's like, okay. They find out the areas have been captured. Prime sends a team with Optimus Primal, who gets to say the line, Maximals, maximize. And they all watch just kind of looking at each other and let me roll out. I'm just going to roll out. You're going to we'll roll out. And the wee team that Optimus Prime put together for him goes after them. Prime, however, himself is still damaged. He's matrixless, which kind of sucks. But eventually, Airazor is not set free by Dinobot, but he doesn't torture her again because she's got inside his head. She's like, listen, you let me be a Maxwell, you let me be a Predacon, be you. And he's like, okay, and wanders off. So obviously you've got Starscream and Black Arachnia making their own way alliance to steal the Allspark if it's really on the Earth and to start doing stuff for themselves instead of for the causes. And he's like, yeah, sure, I want in. Why? Why do you want in? Because me being me. And they're like, okay, we can use the putts. At one point, you get a flashback to, Megatron stealing the golden disc originally, Beast Wars Megatron, sorry, and Black Arachnia and Dinobot are talking about it, and should they, shouldn't they, blah, blah, blah. Dinobot gets a hold of the disc, and he's like, yeah, sorry, Megatron, I'm taking this back, calling off this whole thing. He's got no way, he's got no ammo in his gun, thanks to Black Arachnia. She gets the disc back off and hands back over to Megatron. I'm not sure why he didn't just eat his head right there, proving right there that he ain't loyal. And it flashes forward again. Now, just to get rid of any all speculation, yes, the Allspark is on Earth, but it has been here for much longer than anyone could have thought. Once again, this is something to do with the transit through dead space, dead universe space. It screws with time a bit, apparently. Hence why Galvatron was able to come and visit. So it's already made some sort of like surrounding fortressy kind of thing to protect itself from anyone other than basically a prime coming to get it. Funny how it was a prime that ejected it from the planet in the first place, but I digress again. Everyone ends up looking for the Allspark after the areas has been saved. There was an initial fight and shoot 'em up between bots and cons, Maximals and Preds. They all end up basically all in the same place in this jungle, trying with Starscream, Black Arachne, and Dinobot as their own wee triad. Dinobot quickly going off in his own way, all looking for the Allspark. But Optimus Prime, he isn't just looking for the Allspark; he's looking for the Matrix leadership as well because he needs it. So they're all wandering through, and eventually, I think things go from hectic to more hectic. They see illusions and hallucinations of stuff. Megatron loses the Matrix to Dinobot. The golden disc is retrieved by Starscream, and he gets a little view of what happens because they're able to get a hold of some of Megatron's innermost energon. So they're able to access it, and it's just kind of weird. Well, by they I do mean Starscream. He obviously betrays Black Arachne and pisses off to do things himself. And he learns a few things that will not please Megatron because Megatron hasn't got to that bit yet. He's dodging spoilers unless he needs them. Starscream's like, give me all the info. This could be useful. And it kind of puts him in his own wee dreamscape kind of thing as well, because he's kind of like, la, 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 la. He gets his crown and he's all happy. Who disrupts my coronation? Ah, shit. What the hell is this? And, he basically sees Megatron becoming Galvatron, basically becoming this slave to Unicron. And it kind of fractures Starscream a little bit, if I'm completely honest. But, to get rid of them for a second, getting the Matrix back from two Megatrons, Dinobot has been fatally wounded. And he says he's talking to the Matrix. He knows he isn't worthy, but he needs help to get us back to his rightful owner. And the Matrix kind of like glows and goes up into the air and shoots a beam out. And Prime sees the beam and off he goes. It's very very kind of emotional. Because they're getting the Matrix back at the very least. But it comes at a cost because there's a beacon, so Prime sees it, and the other Autobots see it, and the other Maximals come see it, and they find Dinobot dying like under a tree. To be fair, he had it coming from at least one Megatron. But he talks to Primal. Primal talks back. Talking about he thought about defecting many times to the Maximals. Would they have taken me? And Primal's like, no, you made a lousy Maximal. Him laughing, Dinobot laughing. Dinobot dies. Everyone's quite sad. Yada yada yada. This guy just can't ever seem to get a break, can he? I mean, he dies in there. The original Beast Wars as well. But then things get a bit more trippy because people are still seeing hallucinations and like ghosts and blah blah blah. Optimus Prime, thanks to the Matrix, though, does find this wee citadel Allspark set up for itself, and is confronted by no less than two ghosts. Well, he thinks it's one ghost and one memory. Ultra Magnus and Elita obviously doesn't know what's happened in Cybertron yet. Elita's saying you can't have access till we get the Prime. He's like, I am the Prime. And the image of Elita becomes Ultra Magnus, and he's like, no, you are my nemesis. But he's meaning like Nemesis Prime, you know. So it starts shooting and starts shaking around and creating shit and throwing shit. And Prime basically at the end of it goes, oh, sod this. Brings out the Matrix. And he's like, and Optimus Prime, I don't know who Nemesis is, it ain't me. And finally things start to calm down again. He gets access. Starscream and Black Arachnia, who's finally caught up with him, they decide that they need to get in there. But no, that doesn't work very well because they have to ambush Megatron. They try to ambush Megatron wearing some sort of cloaking device, right? It's kind of the shock we've had in the last season. Megatron knows he's there because obviously he's had the golden frigging disc. Knocks Starscream out cold, takes the cloaking device, and has followed Prime into this wee Allspark Citadel thing. Only Primes will be allowed in. Yeah, well, fuck. The other Autobots and Maximus have been told to hang fire, and they're all talking about certain things and why is the Matrix precious and why is the Allspark precious? What about our timeline? Blah blah. And the Autobots are talking and they're talking. And then I realise, where's the monkey? Primal is followed. And unfortunately, it's caught up with Beast Wars Megatron, and they come to blows. Then Black Arachnia and Starscream, both up again, start just basically shooting at everyone. Then the Autobots and Maximus show up. And it's like, what the hell? Primal at this point has already seen the ghost of Dinobot, at least his spark, the spark's heading for the Allspark, and he's already passed through him and realizes, oh shit, that really is you. That's real. That's real, and Dinobot again helps Primal at this point. He fuses with him and he's able to pass right through the wall to get into the chamber to help Optimus Prime. Prime, fair enough, is being beaten by Megatron. Again, this guy, he can't seem to fight like the Prime that we know, I know he's supposed to be younger at this point, but technically speaking, so is Megatron. But yeah, he's knocked down. Primal goes full monkey and just fires in, and just jumps on Megatron. And Optimus has a kind of a dream because he's kind of like in the corner, As Alita telling me, the only way to do this is to do something you don't want to do, and you got to put your guns down, you got to surrender. He's like, okay, sure, fine, I'll do it for you. Pushes his gun down, surrenders, gives Megatron the Matrix so he can do what he wants. Primal and Prime both follow Megatron to where he goes. Megatron then goes through this kind of weird, trippy scene where he's got the Matrix, he's on Cybertron, but then it sinks into the ground and he starts sinking with it, and everyone goes into this whirlpool into the ground. It's it's very, very, it's like a bad acid trip. Basically, he emerges back outside with no Matrix, with no Allspark. Prime has the Matrix, and the Allspark goes back to Prime. Primal at his side, So it's like, and eventually you've got Beast Wars Megatron, and you assume other Decepticons are coming from somewhere at this point to help. But Prime's like, listen, we get this back home, we save home. You fight me now, we lose home. And Megatron's like, let him go. And Beast Wars Megatron's kind of perplexed, he's like, why? But he's not going to disobey him, he's a simpering prick. God damn, you missed the normal Beast Wars Megatron. But they all go back to the Ark. Wheeljack and Rhinox have both been trying this whole time to get the Ark up and running, and it's just not working. Power seems to be like fading from one place where they need it and going somewhere else entirely. They don't know where it's going, what's happening to the Ark. The others get back and say, we've got the Allspark, we've got the Matrix, can we get the hell out of here? And Wheeljack's like, no, fuck, we need to leave. But, there's technically no rush. The Decepticons have seen sense, and so have the Predacons, and they've just left them all. No, they haven't. They went back to the Nemesis. The Nemesis is now here. The Ark is still buried here. The Nemesis is pounding and pounding and pounding into the Ark shields. The Allspark at this point does seem to get drained a bit of his Allspark power. And all of a sudden, as they're about to abandon the Ark because the Ark's about to be destroyed, they're like, oh, so this, let's go. They open up the command doors. There's a giant revolving wall behind it, and they're like, where'd the corridor go? At this point, the Maximals then decide, we're going to have an offensive. We're going to go for the Nemesis. Try to get the hell out of here. Try to do something. Okay. So Primal leads the charge. And it's quite nice. Arachnia seems to have joined them at this point as well. Starscream is being held in the Autobot ship after trying to pass the golden disc to Bumblebee, and Bumblebee smashes it. Bit stupid there, if I'm completely honest. He doesn't have the Alpha Triumph protocols anymore. Just once again, hell breaks loose inside the Nemesis. It's like, hi, here's a zoo. And everyone starts fighting everyone. Megatron's like, get these animals off my bridge, and like throwing Rhinox and stuff. Then Primal's battling Beast Wars Megatron. Black Arachnia and Air Razor and another part of the ship. They're surrounded by Scorponok. They're fighting Scorponok, like not, the wee Scorponok. They're able to do what they need to do, and they disable the Nemesis' weapons and then continue fighting. Megatron then heads down. He opens up the ramp at the bottom of the Nemesis. He's like, we don't have weapons. I am a weapon. Transforms into a tank and starts blasting and blasting and blasting. The Autobots, they're sitting, the shield is nearly gone. They can't get out because there's a wall appeared where they're supposed to be able to get out. How the hell did the fucking Maximals get out? I don't think that's answered, if I'm completely honest. Maybe they just went through the windscreen. I don't know. Of all people to stop it, Starscream. He's got out. He tackles Megatron. And he reveals to him, we have to stop this now. We have to combine our forces, blah, blah, blah. He's like, what the hell are you doing, Starscream? Like, and he picks him up and he's got him in the chokehold. And he's like, we have to stop. This is what he wants. Like, who wants it? Unicron, he wants this. He's like, who the hell is Unicron? He's like, he's the one that turns you into Galvatron. You're born a slave and you die a slave. And this thing, you can see the chokehold kind of loosen a bit. And Megatron's like, no, 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 no. No, I'm not a slave. I freed myself, blah, blah, blah. And Starscream was like, well, no, you technically didn't. He's like, yeah, you bastard Starscream. And he gets all angry and kind of enraged and throws Starscream. Instead, he's like, what can I do? Blah, blah. Starscream's like, I'll tell you one thing I can do. I can fly. And he kind of transforms, flies back up, and boom, knocks Megatron off the ramp. And you've never been so happy to see Starscream get one up on Megatron, because for once, he's talking sense. Well, it's kind of a frantic gibberish kind of way, but it does make sense if you know your history, which he does. He now does. So Megatron is falling, right? At this point, there's a lot of smoke, there's a lot of ash around the arc. You don't see what's happened to it because the Nemesis was blasting shit out. So is Megatron. He falls, and a really giant fucking hand that lifts him back up, and the arc has transformed into a gigantic robot mode. That it was basically in the dead universe, it's got access to like all universes and all information, and the Ark decided that at some point it may need an alternate mode. That's why it couldn't move. That's where power was going. That's why the core that he got out of the ship disappeared. He was transforming. And it's just Megatron's looking up and he's going like that to Megatron. That kind of, the face of the Ark. If you've read the Marvel US comics, it looks like the face of the first Autobot. Basically, the guy they find that restores Optimus Prime and starts restoring people when the Autobots have pretty much lost by the end of the comic book series. But yeah, his face is basically the Autobot symbol. But after that, that seems to have convinced the Decepticons, right, stand down. We're just abandoning the Nemesis on Earth, apparently. All the Decepticons are taken prisoner and put in some sort of null field thing that just shuts them down. They're like, everyone's going, well, it's the Ark's back in orbit. We've got the power. We're going to take a shortcut through the dead universe, and then we'll, so we'll take a shortcut through a space bridge, and then we'll be home, and we'll be home in time for supper. Starscream's like, no, that's what he wants. Don't do it. He's once again frantic, so they throw him into this bubble thing as well, and it shuts him down. They should have listened to Starscream. They end up in the dead universe again as they're going through the space bridge to go through the space bridge and go through the dead universe, and end up crash landing on Cybertron. But this hits home because it basically said that Megatron was right all along with what happens if the Allspark is not on Cybertron. They've crash landed. There's a wee scouting party out, and there's lots of snow and ice. It's like it's going through an ice age kind of. But they can see that the buildings are wrecked. There's no sign of civilization anywhere. Primes, you can see the pump in his chest just kind of start to kind of fade. It's like, right, we're going to find where the Allspark goes. I've got the Matrix, I'll take it, right? Let's go. Bumblebee, stay here and deal. So, Bumblebee doing what he does in this series, doesn't go flying about any orders he's given, and follows Prime and pulls him up and says, that's a lot of horseshit. You got plenty of people back there. I was one of the Alpha Triumph protocols. I'm the one that needs to help you through this. And he gives him a rollicking. And Prime goes, fair enough. let's get it going. But then he notices that Bumblebee's distracted because he's getting her all looking. He looks, he goes, ah, blah, 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 blah. And he says, okay, Prime, let's go. We'll go this way, you know? And Prime's like, whoa, what's over there? What? And Prime sees it and he runs over, and it's, it's Elita 1. It's the husk of Elita 1. She was blown up. The fact she wasn't in pieces after that is quite impressive. But yeah, and you can just see with Optimus, his head just goes down, and Bumblebee's like, I am so sorry. We still got to do what we need to do here, you know? And he's like, yeah, 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 let's do this. And, I think in a way he knew that she was gone, but then to see a corpse half buried in the snow, it brings it home. It's one of the genuinely sad bits of the entire trilogy, you know? Well, at least it was to me. But basically, they end up looking for this citadel of the Allspark. It pops up when the Allspark needs it, basically, and they go looking. Meanwhile, in the arc, Megatron has just starts floating in the middle of this null cell thingy, which he's got no power, so he shouldn't be able to do it. And he just comes out and drops to the floor. As soon as he drops to the floor, he gets back up. He's back online again. Galvatron's there waiting for him. He's like, we have unfinished business. And he's like, are you me? He's like, yeah, I'm you. Come with me, we got work to do. So off they go, attacking many Autobots, Decepticons, Maximals and Predacons at the same time, to get away from the Ark. And, they realise that between the two of them, that's a lot of power. It's a lot of raw power. So it is possibly not going to go well. And the Autobots and the Maximals, they have a bad idea. Back to Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. And there's the big building thing, and Bumblebee's like, I don't remember that ever being there. No, it's Prime. I don't remember this being there. And Bumblebee's like, no, apparently it just kind of moves wherever it wants to go. And he's like, no, this. And there's a massive crevice around it. So, no real access to it, And it turns out, yeah, that was done. That didn't just happen. That was done by Nemesis Prime. Optimus Prime's future self, recreated into Nemesis Prime by who else? Unicron. So once again, obviously that didn't happen in normal Generation 1. Another reason why I think it's a derivative, the divergence in the time stream here, Plus all the deaths. Optimus and Nemesis start knocking lumps out of each other. Mainly, in Optimus's part, to give Bumblebee a chance to find the entrance and get the hell inside the building. Optimus is basically getting back up after being knocked down by Nemesis, like, screw you. He turns around, and there's Megatron and Galvatron. Basically, he gives this kind of impassioned speech, right? And Galvatron's like, please, bitch, try to reach me. And I'm not reachable. And he's like, I was not talking to you. And it kind of shifts focus from Galvatron to Megatron, who's starting to look as if he's starting to kind of maybe doubt what he's doing, because if they get their hands on the Allspark, sure, they might be able to defeat Unicron in their time, but it leaves Cybertron now dead. And you can see it because Megatron, if nothing else, he's a Cybertronian patriot. He fought in all these wars beforehand for Cybertron. He believes he doesn't want to see his world destroyed. Galvatron Nemesis Prime couldn't give it to us. And you can see the kind of, the swaying decision, the indecision, sorry, in his eyes. Just then, as if he needed another sign that he needs to like wake the hell up. The Autobots, the Maximals, the Decepticons, and the Predacons, all as one unified fighting force, all show up like on this rise just behind the rise that Megatron and Galvatron were on. They've all joined together against them. And that's it. Galvatron's like, please, it's in my interest, it's in his interest. You're not going to sway him. Fusion cannon to the side of the back of the head. It's like, really? He's finally seeing sense. He sees that Nemesis and Galvatron are the enemy. So then, obviously, there's a massive fight scene. Of course, basically everyone fighting Nemesis and Galvatron, And I'm not going to lie, at the start of the fight, they don't do too well. I mean, everyone else, of course, because it is Galvatron and Nemesis Prime, Unicron fueled mofos. Meanwhile, Bumblebee has found the entrance. He's got into the rebuilding. He's put the Allspark back where it needs to go. Shit, it's dead. Outside, everyone's fighting and this and that and the next thing, and all hope seems lost. And then there's kind of yellowy light, and everyone seems to kind of just turn around and look up at the citadel, and there is the sparks of all the dead Cybertronians. Like, you've got Alita and all her people, and you've got Dinobot, you've got Skywarp and that, from from the first series. Anyone that's, I think Shockwave's there as well. Red Alert, Chromia, all those who are dead. It's like again a golden hue, but you can see the spark there, kind of pulsating the image out. Galvatron and Nemesis are like and they jump, and they are like smashed into nothing by the spirits of all the dead. It's really weird, and everyone's just kind of looking up, and you can see Megatron looking at Optimus, that kind of almost a kind of sorry, bro, because it's Alita, you know, he seemed to have a soft spot for her as well in Earthrise. He mentioned that, so he wanted her to join the Decepticons. He didn't want to hurt her. Whether it was personal there or whether it was like as a favour to Orion Pax / Optimus Prime, I don't know. There's like swelling music and all the sparks go back in and they fly down to the Allspark, which suddenly glows and Bumblebee shits himself, which is quite funny. You can see just the change in the atmosphere of Cybertron as the Allspark starts to heal, The planet heals while that heals. And it cuts to like white, then it comes down, and here's something that's confusing to me. It's a massive statue of Cog, right? Like massive, like I'd say about half the size of a Titan. And one of, I assume, Scrapface. Because why Reflector? Why Cog, if I'm completely honest? And you've got all the Autobots and Decepticons, Maximals and Predacons. They don't shake hands really on end, but Megatron himself says the planet's big enough for the both of us for now, as he's walking away, So they all go their separate ways, the planet's starting to heal, blah, blah, everyone's all good, but as they're all walking away, it zooms in on Starscream and says to Black Arachne, I can still hear him. She's like, what are you talking about? He's like, Unicron, I can still hear him in here. He's not happy. And she's like, well, you know what? We now know, so let him come. You see just the black, like at the end of season 1, just black space. And you see the bodies of both Galvatron and Nemesis Prime just kind of floating there as they wake up. And this kind of bright orange flare all of a sudden came from over here. And yes, that's Unicron. I saying I've had to save yous again, but that's okay. You've given me an idea. So he brings them both in, and they seem to just disintegrate into his maw, but not proper disintegration, that kind of like that lined kind of shit when Megatron was getting reformatted in the original movie. That can't disintegrate like that, And just as the maw closes and the light goes away, he's like, I will have my crown. End. And I'm sitting going, the only person that gave a fuck about a crown was Starscream. Ooh, that would have been a great twist, wouldn't it? If I don't know, the ghost of Starscream just decided, listen, I'm just going to have Unicron. He can possess Tripticon. Why not? It's just another step up, But yeah, that's the War for Cybertron series, all three of them. Okay, time for a couple of gripes. Once again, just like the Prime Wars trilogy, this was a trilogy aimed at selling toys. And though it got better through the seasons, it didn't really focus on a lot of selling points, I mean, the Maximals and Predacons in season 3 were a massive selling point, yes. But once again, there were dozens of others who could have been brought in through the first 2 seasons because they have toys of them. They're supposed to try to sell the toys. Shows them in action. It's as one of my major gripes is if it's to basically sell a toy line, put more toys in it. They don't even need to speak. They can be background characters, and you can just go, "Ooh, one." I think it actually happened. I think it was in season 1, Siege. There was one that was just in the background. That was his name was Deep Cover. He's like black and blue, basically. And he was in the background scene of one. So was Red Cog, and eventually we more of Red Cog for some reason. But yeah, it's like if you want to sell toys, put more of them in there, I mean, there's not even comics. There's not even a tie-in comic that I know of to go with these series. So it's like, because if you don't get them in a TV show, usually you get them in a comic. So there were a lot of characters that were brought out as toys after the series, the original Generation 1 series ended. They were all in comics, so instantly people wanted them. But there was not a lot of promotion for that, like for a certain amount of toys. For example, Grapple, Hoist, Inferno. You think if we had Red Alert, I think you had a bunch of others as well. And on the Decepticon side, you had just about as many. It's like if you want to advertise them, you want to sell them, you're going to have to put them into something for us to see them. But that was my major gripe. Other gripes were, unlike the Prime Wars trilogy, this one had they're not like big names, Michael Dorn, Will Wheaton, friggin' Ron Perlman. There we go. There's one right there. special voice actors, Mark Hamill, that kind of thing, or Jason David Frank. We had people like that in the Prime Wars trilogy, mostly in season two, I won't lie. But in this one, it didn't seem to grab enough interest to want bringing in any big celebrity voice actors. I mean, they couldn't even get Peter Cullen or Frank Welker to take up their respective roles. And Peter Cullen did do that in Prime Wars trilogy. So it's also a bit of a gripe. But don't get me wrong, the voice acting was fine. It wasn't spectacular, but it was fine. There were some of the Decepticons who just sounded like the opposite of what they sounded like in Generation 1. And it's like if you're trying to pretend this is a prequel to it, at least try to make them sound like them. It's another gripe. Not a big one. It's just one of these things of it ended in a cliffhanger. I hate when things do that. If they end in a cliffhanger, but there's never going to be anything else after it. Prime Wars did it. The very last scene in the very last episode, you see Optimus Primal, well, it was a Primal Prime at this point, wandering away, and then the camera pans right back, and we see Starscream's ghost, chaos to follow. Nothing ever happens. At the end of that one, Unicron, he's got a new plan. He's going to try something else. He takes his two slaves into him, and then says he wants his crown. Nothing else. That was it. And once again, Starscream is the only Transformer that's ever been obsessed with a frigging crown. So that makes you think, is Starscream's ghost possessing Unicron? Is this why Starscream can still hear him in his head? Because basically it's just Starscream of the future? Who knows? I don't know. We'll never know. If you're going to give us cliffhangers, continue the damn series or do a one-off to wrap shit up. That's all I'm saying. I mean, even the original G1 did that as well. Obviously the Japanese kept it going if you ignored the Rebirth parts 1 to 3. But the end of the part 3 of the Rebirth, the last episode, the American episode, they all want us living in peace, and we're going to do this and that, and we're going to help Nebulous and fix that, and then it cuts to Scorponok. Galvatron's flying Scorponok. He's like, I will rule the galaxy. Scorponok's, no, I'll rule the galaxy. Who's going to rule the galaxy? He's like, me, it's my destiny. He's like, we'll see. And they're just flying off into the unknown. It's like, did they make another Cybertron? Did they make another planet bigger and more powerful than Cybertron? Did they conquer the galaxy? What? Don't end on cliffhangers. It's basically, that's just a general gripe. But I suppose technically you got more from the Japanese stuff if you ignored the Rebirth completely. But anyway, on that note, roll out my fellow Cybertronians, and I'll see you next time.